This week on RSBANDB Update, Combat Mastery Achievements make their first appearance in a right-click examine blog. We discuss what Combat Mastery Achievements are, what they could reward, and if they belong on Comp or Trim. Also, a deep dive on the use of the normal prayer book. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 1007, recorded Thursday, October 10th, 2024. Achieving Combat. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of RSBANDB Update. This week on tap for you, Combat Achievements, a right-click re-examine on Group Ironman, and of course with that, a few patch notes about the Gate of Elidinus. Pernasius, welcome to the podcast, everybody's second favorite Australian.
Thank you, and hello everyone.
Also joining us this week as the Combat Achievements discussion carries on is Bears, who has been on for numerous PVM updates around the podcast before. Is going to be doing Group Ironman PVM stuff, and was just explaining to us in pre-show about how he washed his face after doing hours upon hours of the Gate. Welcome, Bears.
Thank you for having me.
And also Thaxi is here. You messaged me when we knew Combat Achievements were coming because it was something you wanted to talk about. But, of course, for folks who are not necessarily aware of you, you were, of course, on for the Gate podcast, but also in the past you'd become known as the math person around these parts, combat math person. So welcome back.
It's good to be back. Yeah, more than anything, I consider my playstyle to be achievement hunting. Like, that's what I've been doing for most of the last 3-4 years when I've been playing the game. Before my most recent break, I was sitting in around rank 500 on the Rune Score achievements. I'm about 1800th right now, and catching up quickly as I work my way through all the content that happened while I've been gone.
So dedicated stakeholder then.
Relatively, yeah. And as a person who has done enough combat to feel okay competent at it, yeah, absolutely. This is content that feels very much designed for me. Or up my alley, anyways.
Before we get too far down the road, I just want to give a big thank you to our experienced tier Patreon members for whom without RSBANDB Update would not be possible. This week, that's Amos Reed, Andrew C., Bladecom, Drama Free, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Ricky A., Rippeth, Runestar, Tevis, The Naked Captain, Tim, and Truth Ray. You'll hear a little bit more about our Patreon offerings a bit later in the podcast, but in the meantime, if you want to follow along, we do have full show notes available over at update.show. We also have our community Discord over at update.show/Discord, and the friends chat in-game at BitsBytes. Diving in right now. Combat achievements. These are something that Old School initially had, and they're projecting a launch date for this to be sometime in 2025. And, I guess the first question out there is, why does the game need combat achievements? What's your guys' first thoughts on that?
Well, for me, it's more endgame stuff, because as people are maxing and it's giving people something to do.
And that pin dropping there is the sound of, endgame progression in RS3 at times, right?
Well,
so
yep. I'll take a bit of an alternative mode. Okay. I think the biggest thing is that it's hard to get into PVM right now, and there's not a huge path. Like, there are easier and harder bosses, but there's not a huge, especially not hugely visible path to get, or reason to get into PVM, especially earlier on when you've got all these other skilling goals. So for those style of players, this gives them an actual vertical progression rather than just show up at bosses and kill progressively harder bosses. This actually says, choose your challenge rating and become more competent at the bosses as you do them.
Okay, that's a fair
I think that there's room for onboarding here. Like there are tiers of achievements in the Old School system. I'm expecting something similar. Mm-hmm. They want parity plus. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming with this, and so it'll be. I think there's more of that onboarding as well. There's room for like pulling people into PVM, or giving something for people who just want to PVM to actually have something to work towards more.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Fair enough. So you're going the optimistic view rather than the pessimistic view that I went for. Okay.
Yeah, fair. Bears, what's your initial take about what these are going to do for the game?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of a little bit of both. I think it'll give the high-end players something more to do. I mean, I don't know if you guys are in any of the discords for like Solak or AOD, but they have their own achievement list where you want, if you get a sub 5-minute kill at Solak, you get this title. And like, so that like that moving into the game, like people are already doing it. So moving it into the game and giving them rewards is a good way to do that. And then I agree that it probably will, like, someone might look at the easy ones and be like, oh, I don't really PVM much, so let's start with these. And like, okay, let's kind of tick each one down and be like, okay, now I've done all the easy ones, let's move up to medium. So I think it's a little bit of both. On my end, it's going to be more of the kill times and get faster kill times at smaller groups and stuff. And I'm super excited for that. And then getting some in-game rewards for doing that is pretty exciting.
Yeah, because I've always had this question for people, and I've not really ever got a satisfying answer. And that's why this was a topic on for poll on last month's monthly bit that didn't win. It's what makes PVM fun, right? Is it the drops? Is it the combat itself? Is it something else? And I see with this adding, another plank of potential fun to this, the lust of chasing after some of these achievables.
Yeah, achievements are always good. Yeah, I did say mine sort of on the one view of sort of a more sort of, hey, just gives people something to do, but it gives people something to do. I'm an achievement hunter, so it's something I'll look at, and when I do get bored, okay, I'll give it a try because it's there to be done. So it does open it up that way. Yeah.
So in terms of what we expect, and what's been laid out in the right-click examine on this, there's going to be the 6 tiers: easy, medium, hard, elite master, and grandmaster, and they'll be putting the achievements into 3 categories: kill speed, kill count, and mechanical achievements. Kill speed are, like it says on the tin, the examples given, maybe defeat Nex AOD in less than 2 minutes with a team size of 7 or fewer, or defeat the Blackstone Dragon in under 1:30. Kill count, we have those in the game presently that only go up to 100, but they'll look at, scaling these for where they make sense, where it might make sense to kill 100 Archglacier. You might then only instead be asked to complete 10 to 25 Zuck encounters instead for these. There's also mechanical achievements, and I think these are the ones that you're kind of alluding to, Bears, that's going to be the most interesting, in that you are asked to defeat a boss in an intended or difficult way, leading to a perfect understanding of mechanics. Examples include defeating Terraket the Necromancer, while both the Corpse Carrier and Bloated Monstrosity remain alive. I don't think many people think of Terraket the Necromancer on the daily.
What's funny about that is that's almost, with necromancy, it's almost harder to do than it is killing. Like, if you just go straight for Terraket, your Threads of Fate and Skulls will bounce and kill them almost. So that might be harder than expected.
With necromancy, yeah. Other examples include defeating Ambassador without taking damage from a black hole. Defeating Araxi, Path 1 is open without allowing Araxor and Araxi to summon any minions. That shouldn't be too bad with necromancy, right?
It won't be. I think the harder part is going to be P4 because you have to get 50k damage before she summons.
Right. Defeat Nakatra without taking any damage from Soulfire. We know how we feel about that one after grinding hard mode, right, Bears?
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that one.
No. Defeat Solak without him reabsorbing the Blight-afflicted core.
I have like 1,400 Solak kills. I have no idea what that means.
The core is the Erethdor realm, I believe. The Blight-afflicted core is the Erethdor realm in P4. But I don't know what absorbing means. Yeah. don't know that boss very well.
Well, that's going to be on, obviously, Master or Grandmaster then. Defeat next AOD in a team size of 2 or fewer. That's interesting.
That's what I'll go for.
That'll be hard.
Duo AOD.
4,000 in Rage Archglacier, 200 kill streak at Telos. Defeat Beastmaster Durzag alone. Has that been done, Paxi?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The RS guy on his solo series, and I'm sure he had a hand in writing this, did hundreds of those, unfortunately.
Oh.
Because he got unlucky.
Okay.
Or not 100. But he did at least close to 100. When he first started doing it, those kills took 50 minutes. Because you have to be super defensive and you have to kite the chargers the entire time. Because BM hits like a truck and there's like dropping stacks is hard. It just sucks. Yeah, that achievement is fine. It's doable. It's one of those like fun combat achievements. They removed, I think, the ability to solo Yaka. I think solo Yaka currently takes 5 hours.
Holy crap.
No, they removed that one.
They removed it? You can't do it
Yeah,
anymore?
because it's a
It's
an
instant
instant
death
death now. Yeah. Not a
Yeah,
soft.
okay.
How the hell
So,
can you fight one boss for 5 hours in one? Jesus. Okay, sorry.
Hey,
Defensive,
I went for
not
28
defensive.
minutes at Zamorak.
That's true, yeah. But big difference between
Um,
28 minutes and 5 hours.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure the 5 hours was mostly him just sitting in a corner, not taking damage, though, waiting for a sign of life to come back.
That's true, yeah. Because you can get far enough away.
There's also
Oh,
complete the
God.
Sanctum of Rebirth without banking.
Cool.
And then there could also be achievements that could be grouped up, like a Perfect Nicontra, which is the Soulfire one combined without taking damage from Sanctum Shockwaves, and defeat Nicontra while entering the Shadow Sands only once.
Damn.
Yeah. My best is a 3 cycle there.
I have been nowhere close to 1 cycle.
Right.
I've gotten like 150k off, and that's been insane.
Maybe you could do it on normal mode?
Yeah, that's probably my guess.
Yeah, hopefully.
Um,
Hopefully. But that's
That is, I think...
Go ahead.
I think personally, so my opinion on what they've listed there is that, like, one, they've listed primarily things that are very hard. Like, I expect most of those to be, like, either very challenging masters or, like, Grandmaster tier achievements.
Yeah.
Most of those are really challenging, really annoying. And the thing I really want them to be careful of is to, like, think about how much they're requiring for both the kill speed tasks, which the kill speeds I'm fine with because you can have variable tiers. Like you could say like the highest Grandmaster tier requires everything, but I think they should be really careful with the ones that require bursts, like the Iraq Sword tasks, where like you have to have a lot of gear. Like you have to, I think they should be careful about how many of these requirements require more than like 15 or 20 bill worth of gear to do. Because if it's too many, I think that becomes a really big problem, especially if it's across a lot of combat styles. Because a lot of these things you'll be doing speeds and different stuff. Like that's one of the issues I have with the old school system is that like they have a number of their achievements and all of their kill speed achievements, which again, I'm okay with the kill speeds, where like you have to have this specific setup. You have to be 1 HP on Derek, prayer flicking with this while doing like this other thing in advance while we're switching between like this Dragon Hunter crossbow and something else. And like there's a bunch of these that are like hyper specific about how they have to be done and require gear that is potentially in the RS3 case very expensive.
Yeah, and see that's the thing.
And I think there need to be some of those for the people that have that gear and want the challenge, like people like Bears that need that challenge level. But
Do you
I
need
think
that
they need to be
challenge
careful
level,
not
Bears?
to do too many of them. I think you didn't do it.
I mean, yeah, some of these I won't go for, like a 200 kill streak at Telos. I never have interest in Telos, so
There's like a few hundred people who can do that, and they can't. They can only do it with practice. If they're rusty,
yeah. So that one's gonna be very difficult. 4,000 Archglacier, like, could I probably do it? Yes. Do I want to? Probably no. And that's just more just like trying to get up to 4,000.
So I guess then the question from this is then what do you guys want to see out of this system? Let's start with you, Pernasius, then.
I mean, a lot of these just sound. I mean, I love achievements, but a lot of these just sound very tedious. They're more. I mean, to
what
me,
they've
it's
listed doesn't sound fun to a
not at all.
non-endgame PVMer.
And
Not
I've always
even
been
vaguely.
exactly. I've always been. If it's in game, it should be on trim comp. But none of these, I don't think, are
Deserves
trim
that.
comp type achievements. So hopefully it'll be a totally separate thing. Maybe their own Grand Mastery cape for combat or something like that. Not on trim.
Well, like the old school has a kit that you can put on your Slayer helm to make it look like Skull Zook's helmet.
Okay,
and
great.
That's the if you completed every combat achievement, you have that helmet, and you are it's a prestige marker.
That's
separate
it. So
from
it's
their,
it's a cosmetic thing that says, "Hey, look how good I am." That's fine.
Sure.
Hopefully, I do something like that and not sort of. I mean, before I saw what they were going to be doing, I would have said no, everything has to be on trim. But looking at this, I'm saying no, that's ridiculous.
And see,
to me,
I'll let you finish.
Yeah, I was going to say these are more challenge type things. Like, okay, I've perfected the boss now. I want something to achieve by continue doing it. It's like I'm the same way with normal mode and hard mode bosses. I don't think hard mode should get anything more other than a higher drop rate than normal mode, because it's like an Ironman mode. It's a challenge type mode. That's what I sort of look at this type of thing. It's more of a challenge type mode rather than sort of the achievements of getting your 100 kills or completing a drop log or something like that.
I'm very excited about the kill count task changes, though. Like, final boss can stay how it is, that's all fine. But getting 100 kills at one of the elite dungeons, so different from getting 100 kills like a God Wars boss.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
The idea that they're going to actually try to put some parity on time there excites me greatly.
That is one good thing. I did like that one, but yeah, some of these...
Quick clarification from earlier, because I want to protect my representation. Person who knows things. The Solak core, that's P1. I'm pretty sure that's the blue orb after arms and legs. It's just don't do 2 arms and legs phases. That's super reasonable. Yeah. That's a fine. Like, that's like master tier if that. Like, that's fine. But like some of these, like, defeat the ambassador without taking damage from a black hole. Like, some of these aren't too challenging. Like, a lot of them are relatively reasonable. But I think that they should, like, make sure that they throw a few in that are, like, either funny or fun. Like, they can't all be,
serious ones. Yeah.
Yes. Like, and this is kind of, I want to tie in, if it's an okay time to do it, to tie into the current combat achievements that exist in the game through like the combat tab in the achievements page.
Right.
And things that I think they've done well and poorly, right? Like, some of them, like defeat Araxi in all bronze, is really funny. Like, that's a great achievement because Lumber Strikes Back, it's funny. The problem is that I have with it, like, it doesn't have huge entry requirements. Like, I think it's a well-designed achievement. The problem is it's really, really unclear how you get it. Like, the description of what you need to do on the wiki is a few paragraphs long. But all the ways you can disqualify yourself from getting it. There's an achievement I still don't have at hard mode Zelyana for killing her while under the effects of Sunshine or Death Swift.
Oh, wow. Sunshine. Interesting.
And I have tried dozens of kills with this, and I am certain I've gotten it. Like, I have killed her standing in a sunshine so many times. Because you can only last hit her with damage from an ultimate classed ability, which is also a weird thing with Necromancy, but that's beside the point with how they're reclassing things. Boss probably should rework, but again, it's hard to see on. It doesn't need it. Look, there's some achievements that are just the conditions to achieve them are really weird or bugged. And they need to be really careful with how they implement the new ones, and like maybe come and do an old pass, because there's some that you have to do some janky nonsense to make them function.
Yeah, and I guess that's a question too. Is that do the existing ones get worked into this, or do those stand?
I think they do
on their own.
I think all of them do.
Like I know specifically in your case, like the raids feats as an example.
Yeah, no, I think the raids, Daredevil in particular, should be on like a part baked into the system. I would actually be unsurprised if they put the golden Daredevil feats as Grandmasters. Maybe not Yaka. I don't know if that would be too hard to like get 10 people who are willing and interested in doing a golden Yaka. Golden just meaning you do all of the feats within one kill. Which in Yaka's case is very hard, and Beastmaster's case is relatively easy. Like, we've done golden BMs just for the sake of not having to do multiple Beastmaster kills.
And I think one of the interesting things that is coming from this is that I think you could have a revamped interest in PVM, not only from the higher tiered crowds, like you said, who are already doing these sorts of thing pairs in their own Discords and whatnot with their own roles. And I would hope that there's, and I bet there is, I bet there's some, coordination with PVME and all those sorts of folks who do that thing to kind of nail down it, what some of the niche master and grandmaster should be in that case. But as we were also saying, it's a good way of, maybe onboarding PVM as well. Bears, what are you looking for? If you could, take one thing from the combat achievements when they arrive, what would you hope for?
I think what I am most excited for would be the mechanical tasks. I enjoy like Vaxie kind of said, with like the kind of fun or goofy ones. I mean, I was kind of going through them. Like, there's one with Virago that's like kill Virago while holding a pet rock. And it's just like you just sit there and do nothing basically, but you let your teammates do it, and like that's
you just hold your pet rock.
Interesting, like, and it's different. It's like that stuff like that would be fun. I'm not a big person on kill times, so I'm not looking forward to those. Kill count, I already have final boss, so I'm looking forward. Like that one, I'm hoping they just like automatically are done when I
because there's certain bosses you don't want people to ask.
Will remain
to roll over.
Yeah, autocomplete. They've said that.
Yeah, they said kill counts will remain, but not times.
And that's fine. I think that's. Yeah. I mean, there's, for example, my Archglade Core PR in hard mode's 48 seconds, and that was because day one it was bugged. I don't know if you guys remember that. Like I'm never going to do that PR. Like,
I have a whole PR that's the same thing. Yep.
So it's like I said, it just automatically came in. I checked it off. I'm like, well, that kind of sucks. So
that's a good question actually too for you. Do you feel like how fast do you think the kill times could be? Because we know that there's is it reasonable? Okay, maybe ROTS isn't the correct choice, but like maybe ROTS should have a kill the boss in 0.6 seconds achievement. But like, there's so many speed kill strats that are literally like you see somebody kill like hard mode Carapac and it takes them 30 seconds or something ridiculous, right? Like they just burst and they're in P4. And like, how hard do you think they should go on the kill count tasks? Because people have broken this game's combat system down to such a degree that like, I don't know.
I think what
level do you think is reasonable?
And I think there's a fine line to walk when it comes to dealing with those sorts of interactions, because you have to do some pretty specific things to hit that 0.6 seconds, rise of the 6 time, as an example.
Yeah, it's not doable every day.
Right. And to have achievements that rely on things that are, quite frankly, just really absurd interactions, I don't necessarily know if that's the right way to go. How do you feel about that, Bears?
There's like 6 ways to do the ROTS.
I don't like the idea of those super fast times. I was apparently I'm not in the Solak Discord anymore, but like their Grandmaster times are absolutely insane.
They changed
it's
their
like
name.
Okay,
you're still in it.
But like their kill times are absolutely insane. It's like less than 1% of the people in that server, way less than 1% of the people in the server have the fastest time. And just like, that's not where it should be. Like, it should be obtainable for people with high-end gear and end-game stuff, but not like everyone. Like, that sounds bad. That's like, I'm not saying
no.
Like,
I get it.
Like, once you get the gear, you should be able to then move forward and get the Grandmaster stuff.
And
if you're competent.
So what
like me and struggle, then I shouldn't be. But
exactly. So what I'm getting from that then is that there's going to need to be a very clear line when we start moving into Master and Grandmaster, and what those look like compared to everything else, based on what has just been said, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine they are talking to the people at PVME, the people in Solak Discord, the people at Rago Discord and AOD, and like they are trying to be like, okay, you guys said it at X time, we want it a little bit slower. What do you guys think of like Y time? You know, and I bet that will help a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there are so many bosses where the kill time is literally just how fast can you get off this, in the special attack of a decimation bow, how fast can you, not bladed dive, you can like barge in, weapon swap to something else, and then like in, 2 game ticks you put in 30 inputs and you just kill the thing because there's just mechanics to burst like that.
I was watching 2 of my friends today try to do route skips at Solak. And like they spent a full hour and they got it once, and then even then they tallied out because they're like, we don't know what to do after this. It's like,
we did it.
What? Yeah, it's just like, and like they were on pace to get a easy PR at Solak, but they're just like, we don't have anything ready for arms and legs.
Again, this is just like comes back to the idea of like, I think there shouldn't be too many tasks, and maybe this does include kill speed at this point, where it's like you have to have all the gear for burst. And I think that, having the mechanical ability to do it and testing that is one thing, but having a hard gear check and like the patience check like that, I don't know if that's like, is it fun?
Right.
Is it fun for more than a few hundred people? Because it's fine. Like,
but at the same time,
like even months after release was owned by like 50 people.
Exactly.
Like, their achievements were hard.
And that's the question, do they want Grandmaster to be that same level in RS3 where there's, like 3-4 dozen people only that have it?
They also have the Inferno, and like,
yeah,
our Inferno is like 4,000% on whatever you choose. Like, it things are different. I don't know. But the other thing I wondered is like what Bears is talking about the mechanics. I'm excited for those achievements as well, because just the idea that there's 2 ways you can go with that, right? There's the achievement for doing the mechanics right, and there's the achievement for not doing the mechanics right.
Yeah, those are fun too.
And I'm really looking forward to the ones where it's just like, don't react to this. Just let it hit you 50 times. And also the ones where it's like, yeah, don't get hit by special attacks for, this many kills in a row.
Hey, maybe they could add one to Zamorak about not killing the healing minions and seeing if you can survive longer than 20 minutes.
That sounds miserable.
Yeah, it does.
I did that.
You know that. I remember the conversations we had where you're like, I don't know if I like this boss. And I looked at your kill time. I remember these conversations, Shane. You didn't always have a point of pride about this.
I know, it was a problem. And then I saw where it was on the high scores, and it became a point of pride. Okay, so that's what we want from these sorts of achievements here. And I guess we've been kind of dancing around this issue. Where do they sit within regular RS achievements? Are they a part of the rune score system, or are they outside of it? And then that leads to the question about comp and trim after that.
I think they should give rune score. I don't think they should be like the achievement diaries where like every elite task gives you 25 points, because rune score, if they release as many achievements as I would like them to with this, rune score balloons to an unreasonable degree. However, at least there should be large chunks of rune score at each like tier of combat achievements you complete, whether that's through like you get X number of points for a thing like the old school system, or if it's just you completed all the easy combat achievements, you get the reward for it. However they do the rewards for this, which I guess we'll talk about later. I think it should fit in the rune score system. And I think all the rune score achievements should be ported into it. Like I think all of the current combat achievements they have, with some exceptions that are very buggy, the ones they have are generally good. And like there's very few that I look back on, I'm like, that was really annoying.
The reason I wanted to ask you about that in particular is because of, what we were talking about a bit in pre-show, how you and Pernasius, you're like close to 30K and Pernasius is around 27K rune score on this. So are you guys looking forward to having new, rune score things to chase? Or
for me, yes. a lot of these will be unattainable, but I mean, rune score, you don't really get any benefit in game for rune score. It's a challenge type thing. It's just there. So I totally agree. It should be on rune score. Even though I'm going to hate a lot of them, it definitely deserves to be on rune score. And I think I prefer Thaxie's idea of more of a, okay, you've completed the low ones, you get this reward. Once you've unlocked that reward, you get your 50 points, or you get the medium ones, you get your 75 points, whatever it is, however they want to do it.
I would like the release of these to give like 2,000 rune score max. Like it can be substantial, but
however they do it. But I mean, you can do individuals for the 5 points, the 10 points, whatever. But I like that. I like the idea of complete it and then you get a chunk of rune points, because then it gives you something to, I'm going to keep working towards this. And there's one annoying one you think, no, I don't have to do that one, but I want to get this reward, so I'm going to do it anyway. So it just gives you that bit of extra push.
There was something we missed in terms of speaking about combat achievements in general, and, we can rope that in now with Rune Score. One of the big questions they're asking in the big, bold, yellow lettering is that should skilling bosses be included in these?
Oh.
They're bosses?
Yeah, why not?
All PVM encounters, skilling or otherwise.
Yep.
I mean,
as Anna says, a boss is a boss.
Yep.
If they made something
especially the last boss.
Yes. I mean,
that's a PVM boss. I'm sorry.
like Temperos or one of those that's more skilling. But even then, I think Old School has achievements with them. I think they should. I think they belong there.
Yep.
They may not be worth I think maybe the amount of points and the amount of difficulty should scale a little bit. But yeah, it's got a boss timer. It shows up in the bosses tab. It should be there.
Bears, I heard you say something. What were you going to say on that?
Yeah, I think if it gives marks of war, it should count.
That's actually a good way of looking at it. If it gives marks of war, it should count. That's actually the simplest way of looking at it, I think.
Exactly. That's a very good point.
I take that back a little bit. I would currently the hard mode Nomad is not included in the combat achievements. I think achieving the Soul Capes should be part of the combat achievements.
Yep.
I think there's some stuff that is outside the realm of normal marks of war encounters that should probably be included in this.
Yeah.
And there's some weird content, but in general, I know, I agree with that. I think skilling bosses should be in there.
Okay. So they should be part of Rune Score to a degree. Skilling bosses should be included. And I guess the big thing going into this now, does this go on trimmed comp? I don't think you put these on comp.
Before I read what some of those were, no comp, no way. I would have said yes to trim comp, but then looking at them, I'm saying no. Thaxie and I were going to be having an argument about this, but I think I'm already convinced.
Easy ones.
So here's my.
Hang on. I want to go with what Bear said first about easy ones. With that, so then that would be kind of splitting them apart, kind of, right? Or
I like the idea. I worry that depending on how they do it, right? In Old School, the easy ones are you complete X number of each achievement, each tier is worth a different number of points. A Grey Master might be 5 and a Master might be 4 and an easy might be 1. And then you earn an X number of points, then you receive the easy rewards. Then they're tiered that way. And that would be fine for me. I think a lot of the easy achievements are just going to be on the mole. As much as I want them to put easy achievements at everything, you just can't put easy achievements on Telos or the Sanctum. You just can't. I just don't see a way that they could reasonably do that other than kill it once, maybe.
Yeah, so Bears, what's your idea with easies then in terms of what you could do with that, what you were saying?
My assumption was going to be a lot of, in my mind, easy should be something kill every boss once. So Reaper Crew basically would be on easy. And then, which I know is its own other issue. And then do some of the mole and easy Wildy, the wilderness one. Can't think of its name right now.
KBD.
Yeah, KBD, and then
silly.
Yep, put some of those super easy bosses on there. Yes, and some of their achievements on there for the easy ones.
Okay, so maybe easy.
I think that would be fine. And again, I think Reaper Crew is an issue, but I mean at this point.
I mean that we've been around the bush so many times on Reaper Crew that I have no idea.
I think Reaper Crew stands apart. Maybe you might get a medium achievement just arbitrarily or something, but I think there's bosses on there that even achieving one combat or one kill count is going to be harder than everything that belongs in maybe the easier medium tier. Like, just earning a kill count at Yaka, not even the coordination requirement, but actually just, like, doing it. I guess you earn a kill count by even if you die. So, like, maybe that's not a good example. But, like, or Solak, even though Solak Discord is so good about getting people there for Reaper kills. Like,
but you still need to find that Discord. You still need to know people. I get that.
And so I don't, like, and a lot of those won't take anybody on mobile. Like, the Raid FC, like, they don't. If you're on mobile, we don't want you. Like, sorry. Like, there are people who can do it, but most people can't. Like, especially if it's your first kill. So, like, I worry about where Reaper falls in all of this, honestly. And it might just be one of those things that gets sorted out as, like,
or
the
Reaper
kill count
just stays. Or
levels.
Reaper just stays outside of the combat achievements thing, because I feel like that, you know, they've had a good, you know, discussion on that, and they've already taken it off comp, right? So
They took it off comp?
didn't they? Yeah.
I don't think
so.
they should have.
I don't think so either.
So, here's, and I'll take a second, if now is an alright time to do it, to, like, kind of have a brief digression about what kind of things I think belong on comp and trim comp. And again, for everybody that's like, I've had trim for a number of years. Currently, I am 10 necromancy levels, a lot of Osseous kills or money, and a lot of clues away from retrimming. My comp and Master Quest are just 10 necromancy levels.
Hang on,
like,
I just want to interrupt you for 1 second. Yeah, they did remove Reaper off of comp. It is now on trim.
Trimmed, yeah.
So here's the way I view these, and, like, I think I grabbed some of this from back when they were doing the caper work, and maybe some of it is just my opinion on things, but I see comp as not you've completed every piece of content, it's more that it's like you've interacted with the game in a complete way. Like, you've seen every piece of content the game has to offer, and you've interacted with it to a level that says you've
experienced
least,
it.
You figured out how the content works. Trim, to me, is you have figured out how the content all works, and you have achieved some level of mastery within it. So you have optimized the way you've had to do the content enough that you have to a level that you could have chosen to not optimize, but realistically, you have almost certainly optimized performing every piece of content in the game to some degree. That's where I think, like, those capes should live achievement-wise, and maybe that means some people who have trim right now, like, shouldn't. Like, I have done one Solak kill. I got my Solak kill through the Discord, through their lovely Reaper system. Can recommend. And I, like, understand how the boss works vaguely, but if you ask me to walk in there and do a kill with you right now, and, like, a group of less than 7 or 8, it's not happening, probably.
And
so,
I'm with you on that in terms of where comp stands in terms of, you know, experiencing the content and just having a general gist of it. And I think that's even where Mod Jack was last time we heard him talk about, you know, the whole comp sort of spectrum.
Like, bossing wise, to me, like, and I think they've been good about this. Like, right, as I think the Druid Enclave was a great example where they, like, in order to earn the comp requirement, you had to have, like, just unlocked the ability to use all the seeds. It's like you interact with it, you earn your, like, 25,000 points. You could earn that with, like, 25,000 beans if you wanted to, and just get it done with. But the trim requirement is you complete all of it. You have all of the unlocks. You've earned enough points to say that, yes, you understand how to look at the seeds and do the thing and sort it out and, like, optimize yourself for it. And they have generally found ways just to, like, put that in as the achievements for either. And where that comes with bosses, I think, is, like, I feel like, this is maybe my personal opinion, is that Reaper probably belongs on comp. Like, I think
that was a whole laborious discussion last summer when that was happening.
Everything,
and they pulled it too.
Except for I would say Yaka. Pretty much everything else is not too terribly challenging if you come in with a full set of tier 90 weapons and mindset that is,
which you can do with necromancy.
Yep.
Yes, I think very few of the bosses are not willing to accept you. And, like, you could do the same thing with raids. It's just the FCs. You're going to have to beg a little bit. Like, sorry. But pretty much, well, no, there's learner events. I take that back. They have learner events where they accept people in lower tier gear once a month. I get those pings. I have done those events. Like, so I think it's reasonable to say you should kill every boss. Like, you might run into some challenge with, like, No, Virago, you just make a couple of friends, and you just I don't know.
But see, here's the interesting thing about all this, is that this is a discussion that was had last year, and it even went into aspects around the solo 100% Zamorak kill. So the way it went in the poll, one of the questions about should Reaper crew be added as a requirement to unlock the trimmed comp cape, 60% voted yes to that.
To what? Sorry.
To add Reaper to trim.
Yeah, which again, I mean, I think it does come down, frankly, to most of the I think we know that the PVMers are not a significant portion, or not the majority of the community, right? The vast majority of people who play the game and vote in these things are skillers, or people who are not at the level of their account progression where they want to be doing bossing.
Is that the case with RS3?
I think it really is. I think a lot of people will do the occasional combat thing, but I think the majority of players, I think the total number of people in wandering through War's Retreat in any given hour is maybe less than the total populations of World 70 and 84. And I think that alone just says maybe the answer to that question.
Right. And maybe my view has become a little bit lopsided over the years, is that I feel like after you get max and whatnot, I feel like the natural thing to do is to go PVM, but maybe that's because, the 120s and the 200s don't speak
the 120s exist now. There is there is an actual path to display achievement with earning all 120s.
I've made the decision myself that I'm not going for any more 120s unless they're real 120s. So, but that's just me.
You go to your World 84s and such and just see how many people are working on 120s and even a lot on 200 mils now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bears, what do you think?
There are a lot of people working on
doing,
those.
Lots of PVM stuff.
I mean, kind of funny because at the same time you say that, but I'm also 120 all, so I do my fair shares skilling.
The end game has shifted. PVMing now starts after 120s. Maybe that's it.
I mean, I use my money from PVM to skill. It's how it works.
Yeah. I use my money from PVM to buy things that make me look nicer.
Yeah, I don't need that. Until I get enough for a party hat, I don't care about cosmetics.
Right, okay. I'm going to thank some Patreon supporters, and then we'll get to because I feel like we've been dancing around the topic of should it be on trim and where are we at. But I'm going to thank some Patreon supporters, and we'll get an actual answer to that. I'm leaning towards no on that myself. But this week I'd like to thank Alvaro L., Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arvids L., Bladecom, Brayton K., Chilbura, Dominic R., Drama Free, Duramax, Gila Fleur, Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Mongrath, Parnassius, Ricky A., Rippeth, Robbie D., Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirtpants, Tabby, Targayin, Tevis, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Truth Ray, Ukulele Steve, Woody, and Zant. Big, huge thank you to everybody out there for supporting us. It does mean the world to us. And, of course, if you want to help us do what we do here each and every week, head on over to patreon.com/RSBANB, and you can register your support there for as little as $1 a month. And in doing so, you get a mention on the podcast in the show notes each and every week. You also get access to an entire catalog of monthly bits, or bonus shows, as we call them. We just recorded a banger of one yesterday, Zerdones, Earth, and myself. We sat down and discussed the topic of RuneScape's engagement systems, as in, how do they bring new players in if they do? What do they do for lapsed players, and how do they make people like us play more? And we also asked the question, is RuneScape a gacha game, which, is an interesting discussion in itself in terms of where we went with progression. And that monthly bit right now, if folks have listened to it, is going to influence what I say here in the next segment. But we also do have the VIP tier, where for $3 a month you get a mention on the podcast at the start of the month, including a rank on Discord and Discord chat channel. You also, of course, get a high-quality stereo version of the podcast each and every week. And for $5 a month, if you do want to give that sort of gift, you'll receive a shout-out each and every week. You also get exclusive access to the clips that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year in the RSBANDB Update Christmas card. But patreon.com/RSBANDB. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
So,
should it be on comp?
I don't think the highest tier should be on trim.
I agree.
I think that would be an unfun experience for too many people and would drive some folks to be unhappy.
It's difficult because then you split it apart.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I would personally like to have Reaper on comp, and these kill counter achievements that are like the equivalent of a few hours at each boss. Again, it's the idea that you have seen all the content on comp and you have like somewhat optimized the content on trim. I would like you to have to spend a couple hours at each boss for trim. And for some bosses like Yaka, that might just be one kill. Like genuinely, that the trim arc might still just be one kill. Like I don't know. I don't know how you put the rest of these achievements fairly into those buckets, and I don't think it would be popular to add too many combat achievements to these capes that are now more skilling based.
I think it also depends how they end up doing it. Like you kind of said before, if you get points for getting a Grandmaster one, and then you get the easy achievement, like including those points,
maybe you have the easy one on there.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think my vote is still yes. Like the easy ones, maybe mediums, depending where they are.
I think you wind up with it being a messy. I think you wind up with a
messy
messy situation then, if that's the case. My answer is going to be no, for the reason, well, two reasons. One, I think what you mentioned in particular in relation, Thaxi, to the old school stuff, where if you make the rewards flashy enough like they are, it doesn't necessarily need to be its own thing, like trim is. Like you mentioned, if you completed Inferno or whatever in old school, you get the Zuck head ornament for the Slayer helmet. And, I mean, if you make something like that look flashy enough for RS3, you can go in that direction. And then the second aspect of it, about why I'm starting to think that these shouldn't be on trim, is that this goes back to that monthly bit discussion, where everything, and, you know, it doesn't necessarily, it wasn't necessarily designed this way, but the way we looked at it, and this is a bit of a preview to that bit, none of you guys were there for it, unfortunately, is that the big impact that PVM has in the gameplay as it is, you wind up in a situation where PVM has more influence than skilling, and as a result of that, you then have situations where you have things that are on trim and comp, things that could potentially be, you know, those kind of rotational gameplay things where you're banking on getting a certain drop for it, and I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing, right? So,
except for Ironman, but
I feel like one of the core problems with RuneScape 3's progression at endgame right now is actually the comp and trim mindset after doing that bit. I can't explain it all in 5 minutes. I'll invite the Patreon members to go and watch that.
I think that people get railroaded into doing that content even if they might not want to.
I think that's what comp and trim does to the game, yeah.
Which to be fair is different than the PVM. So the people that don't want to do the questing and the skilling and stuff can go and do these PVM achievements as an alternative, route.
And like, I think that you could design rewards that are meaningful enough that it doesn't need to be on trim. And then you can start doing these sort of uncoupling things where the folks who have 120 alls get some fun stuff. The people who have done all the lore achievements have the Master Quest cape. They get some wonderful things out of it, too.
We don't need to make another 8 versions of all of the capes that now have a combat tier
exactly. And it doesn't necessarily put you on that path of the be-all and end-all of everything in RS3 is trim. I think that's a mindset, especially after that bit, and looking at some old-school things that RS3 needs to get away from. So that's my take on it, why it shouldn't be on trim.
Renacius, were you going to say something before Shane started talking? Before I have another take, but...
No, that's okay. No, but I mean, coming into it, I would have said, yes, it should be on trim, but sort of seeing how difficult and sort of, how specific some of these are going to have to be. Yeah. I would say no. I love the idea of that helmet that you were talking about that they do over on the other one. I mean, even if they did something like easies unlock you a helmet, get the mediums done, you unlock some pants. Do the hards or the masters, and you unlock a body, and that and it's something that you can sort of design. It's like you can sort of customize your trim cape. You can customize these to what like you want. Yeah, and have maybe, and then you get the master, you get this halo thing over your head. I don't know, but I would like to see a cosmetics reward for it. I mean, another cape.
So
why? But sort of something different that is going to stand out. So yeah.
Here's my challenge with this, is that the way that comp and trim are set up right now, they generally include a lot of the unlockable things. It's like the core account upgrades you get from doing content are part of those. And I think it depends a little bit on what the rewards are in terms of maybe what tier you put certain things on, that some things would deserve comp and some things don't. So the way Old School does their system, which I actually, again, really like, and I'm going to, sorry to everybody, every time I'm on the show, I'm like, but Old School does it this way. In terms of us from learning from it, Old School has 6 tiers of combat achievements. Each tier awards you an upgraded version of a cosmetic offhand. It's just a hilt that you can wield from the guy who guards the Warriors Guild. And each one of them, it's like a task set where it upgrades that hilt and it gives it additional things. So a few tiers in, you gain the ability to create instances because they don't have that because of bots. Whoops. As a base thing. So a few tiers in, you gain the ability to create certain instances at places like the God Wars dungeon. It's they make imbues at places cost less points. There's there's teleportation to the God Wars dungeon and to the Tsar city attached to the upgrades. The 5th and 6th tier of the hilt can be attached to the highest level defender in their game to create a cosmetic version of the defender, because again, the hilts have no stats at any tier. And the defender that they have has all of the buffs of this hilt as part of it built in. It's just in addition to the cosmetics. And so that's what they've done. And then at the highest tier, you've completed every combat achievement, and the helm gets taken away every time a new achievement or boss comes out. They have the Zokum as a visible thing. And I like that cosmetics system. And I like how it kind of parallels the tasks. My note tasks are Shane's least favorite thing, but it is intrinsic to how this seems set up to work to me. That it makes sense to follow that model, and have a single piece you can upgrade.
And I just think that there's too much intrinsic, lust maybe is the word for it, or inherent desire of RS players to go for comp and trim, that I think it can be unhealthy at times for people going for that. And that's why, the system
Master Quest Beyond Trim, we still have this discussion. It's the same thing, right?
Well, yeah, people voted 70% yes for that.
Which is crazy to be. I don't necessarily agree, but there's some nonsense on Master Quest that has nothing to do with completing the game. They just chucked some crap on there. Not all of those things deserve to be
Right, and that's the thing that comes from this is that now is the time to start doing things differently, especially with the influence that RS3 has been given over the last 6 months or so with the new EP. So, Bear, should it be on comp or trim?
Yes.
So just trim,
just the easy ones. Yeah, just trim, easy ones on trim.
Okay,
yeah, the easiest tier on trim.
At the very least, I agree.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so rewards on these. What do you guys want? Actually, no, I shouldn't be asking you that. I want to go through some of the things that...
$1 million.
Yeah, I wish.
Hey, for me, God mode. That's all I want.
Right, the Jagex God mode.
Yes.
I want to be able to touch the Stone of Joss and get 256 in every one of my stats at all times.
So... They have some ideas, but they also want to explore gameplay-altering rewards to give a tangible benefit for completing these. They should not offer additional power as a player, but instead should offer quality-of-life improvements to reduce friction in boss encounters. Examples could be like Totem of Intimidation, which would no longer require kill count for the God Wars dungeon, don't we? Yeah, we already have that, don't we?
It's an incarnate.
So these are examples of what they could be, like the Ring of Death overcharge, increased Ring of Death charge capacity. Shard of Maw, increased God Wars Dungeon 2 multiplier. All doors within the Barrows Crypt will become unlocked.
Yep.
What they're not...
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, that would be, especially with how
annoying
some of those puzzles are.
Like if you're hunting Linsa pieces for log, God, can you imagine not having to deal with buying lockpicks?
Yeah, I forget what Zerdones did, but I think he did like 2,800 or something Barrows runs before completing his log there.
Yeah, it's gross.
So, they're not looking for things like a Reaper boost, as in additional stats, increased combat XP, or death support, such as increasing the amount of healed by Signs of Life. So, just basic combat quality of life things is what they're looking for.
Combat should feel the same, but systems around combat. So, like, again, I'm drawing a lot of inspiration from literally looking at the old school list right now, but it's like, for them, their cannon can hold more cannonballs. Their, like the bracelets they use to extend or shorten Slayer tasks that they use all the time have a higher chance to proc. Their superior Slayer monsters are 25% more common. Stuff like that. I think a lot of those don't necessarily apply to our system, right? Like we have such a built-out reward system already, it's hard to come up with things. I think there's some stuff like the ability to choose your Reaper task being, I think it's like 10 or 20% right now. Like bumping that up by 10% would be like a good type of a reward, right? Or I love the Barrows doors being open thing. Like there's a lot of things, even though that is technically power group, but it's Barrows. Like I'm okay with it.
And to be fair, like, if you are doing those sorts of achievements, you either need that quality of life at the Barrows, or you're like Zerdones, who has already completed the Barrows log, and if you go back, it just helps.
Yeah.
So
very interestingly, they have Void Knight commendation points on theirs as well, and I think Barrows and the Void Knights are the only specific bosses that are called out. Nothing else is specific to a singular boss. And I think that might be an interesting thing where, like, I could see the RuneScape one being a little, like, iffy. Is like, I could see them doing, like, you know, the tunnel at Rots is always guaranteed to be, one bridge or something. Like, they could do a bunch of stuff like that is quality of life for individual bosses, and I think there's room for stuff there. I just don't know how, like, generally helpful I would find that. I think like an extra portal unlock.
I was just gonna say, what about an additional portal at War's Retreat?
Yeah, I mean, we have the Max Guild one as well, but like an additional portal at War's Retreat. I think there's a lot of that unused area in the back of War's Retreat that they were going to make into like a trophy hall or something, right? War's Retreat Round 2. I think there's definitely space to build a lot of the reward structure in there and make a little bit more of a PVM hub. Because maybe that's it. Maybe it's just a lot of... they've already built out Wars so much, though. But I feel like there's maybe other services they could add in Wars that would be I mean, I don't know what else they'd add. That's the problem, is they've already done so much of the quality of life stuff.
I mean, like whenever they have the PVM events, they put the overloads out there, and you can just.
Oh, that's a good idea.
They give you
Have
something
like
where it's like if you put in so many overloads, you get
overload
an hour
keg.
boost. Yeah, I mean, like that's
like
kind of
like the potion reservoir, but basically saying like you give me 3 hours worth of overload, and I'll give you a 1 hour boost or something. Just unlocking the ability to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I would use that 100%. Like,
yeah,
like that'd be something nice that's not too power creepy. Like, yes, it's nice,
smart economically too. Pull stuff
Yeah.
Reduce cooldown on Sign of Life. Take it down to 30 minutes.
Okay.
And you could tier that too. You could make it 50, then 40, then 30 as you got higher achievement tiers. Actually, I think that's a good idea too, is like a lot of the stuff that you could tier out like that. Even just like achieving 5 or 10 or so extra Reaper points on assignments, like, because like, I don't know.
Ability to get more marks of war an hour.
Yeah.
I mean,
or even an extra free reroll a day on your Reaper task. Yep. The Marks of War thing is interesting because, like, tell me, Bears, how many Marks of War do you have? Is it 250k, and do you need more? Like, do you actually use them on cooldown to buy Reaper refreshes, or like Aura refreshes, or like?
I have like 50k right now, and I use them for Sign of Lives.
Okay.
So whenever I'm group bossing, if I sign,
you always refresh it.
Yeah,
that's true. If you're in a group, I do agree with that. I do the same. That's fair. Yeah, A Sign of Life is a really good shout.
Yeah. What about something with auras? Maybe, because those are a pain to get. But I mean,
the thing is, if you
figure out a better way to get them.
The thing is, if you want to disrupt
by 30 minutes,
right? But then you disrupt the Viswax market, and are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes, frankly.
Well, I was more thinking of ways to get them than.
Oh, okay.
D&D is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's fair. Right, because we have a somewhat, I guess, end game perspective because we have all the auras from all the loyalty points backed up, but other ways of getting them, I guess, makes sense.
Raising Marks of War is good.
I think the biggest thing that you do with this is some sort of cosmetic that's not a cape, honestly.
Yes, I think there should be, and I think it should have some way to combine. Like, this is the issue, is that there's no equipment slot I can think of that only has, because we use so many things. Like old school, they could put it on their melee defender because that's just the thing you use with every one-handed weapon, is you just use an off-handed defender, and sure. Like, we have different stuff in every one of our slots on,
like every
where do you
style. Put it? I mean, it could just be a cosmetic override that works.
It might. You know what? If it is just like they make an offhand defender, I think defender's a good slot for it, right? I mean, they have the Fally shield already, but so does old school. Like that.
Right, and then you could just have different versions of it. Like you could have
unlocked.
You could have one that's an orb, one that's a defender, one that's a lantern for necromancy,
they could all look like a defender,
so on and so forth. So
yeah, I don't know.
What about you, Parnassius? What would you like as a reward on the mid tier?
I'm saying the cosmetics I like. To sort of show that you've achieved it. Things like at God Wars 2. I mean, you can build up your kill count to 200. So it gets you sort of 10 kills before you got to do it again. But maybe, it unlocks that so you don't have to do it again. Or you can, you get the mediums, you get to go to 300 you can store. Then 400,
or even
something like
costs
that.
half as much to get into the room. Something like that.
Things like just
that's a good
little
call.
things.
Isn't that already a thing? Because it's originally 40, and then now it's at 20 once you have all the...
Yeah, that's right.
It is, but I could see it going down to like 15 or 10.
But you can only lock... Yeah, you can only store 200 kills.
I like the increased storage. That's probably...
I like that one better.
Like that's what I like.
400 or 500 kill count storage would be...
But does that even matter? Because you look at Elder God Wars, and there's no kill count requirement there. So why not just have the thing be that it, removes the requirement for God Wars 2 and God Wars 1?
Just remove it altogether.
Just remove it altogether.
Well, I mean,
maybe.
Yeah. But maybe remove it altogether. It could be your sort of media. So if you get, you do the say they've got easy and medium tasks at God Wars 2. So you'll undo all the mediums to you'll double your kill counts there. So you get to store 400. Once you've unlocked the mediums, it's just wiped altogether, so you don't need them anymore. Again,
I also like the idea of decreased instance costs, just in general.
Yep.
Like, I think they're not super impactful right now for most bosses, but it's just one of those things that, like, I started my hour at the Matriarchs, I paid my 187K. Like, I have the discount already, but, like, more discount would be nice,
Or even longer time. It gives you 90 minutes instead of an hour,
Yeah, if it works with I think the challenge with a lot of the things we're proposing with that kind of stuff is that it gets into like the engine team having to do more of the coding. And I know that that's a lot of resources that they don't necessarily want to commit. But like, I do like the idea of a lot of these are engine team things for the reward, and I think that it kind of deserves it. Like, I think the rewards for these should be, I mean, my vision of this is that like, the last tier of it is something that is only obtainable by maybe 1,000 people. Like,
yep,
of all the people that play this game.
I think you just hit the nail on the head there of what it needs to be reward wise. And
it's okay, but like the last tier, the rewards should be very much just like, oh, that's nice. They shouldn't put anything on the high tiers that is like changing efficiency, like like. Some of the stuff like being able to create instances for old school, like if they'd put that on a really high tier there, that would be awful.
Yeah, and to be clear, I think
I
also think that there's a difference too between having something that's limited to 1,000 people in terms of this reward versus the discussion that happened with Sanctum and the tier 95 ones, because there's obviously a strategy involved in that in terms of making Magic more accessible. But I think that's probably about it for combat achievements. We've talked about where they were and what the plan is going forward and our ideas for some rewards on them. Next, we do have a few patch notes from the gate, amongst other things. They fixed an issue that was causing damage from Iclipsed's aid to be incorrectly modified when the pillars were about to expire. Like, I see these words, but I don't necessarily know what that means.
I think if you were late to jump up there, they didn't give you full damage. They didn't give you clarity damage.
Okay.
Is my guess. I don't actually know for sure, but that sounds like what they're trying to say there.
All right. Iclipsed's aid can no longer be used by players in the safe mode.
When I first read this, I thought it was anybody behind, like, the wall in like the protected area back there. That's definitely not true.
Yeah, and then Bears clued us in on some ways he was feeling when he was doing this boss, right?
Yeah. I did too much of this boss in a short period of time, but I took it as if you in a group and you die, you go back behind the barrier and can't interact with the boss anymore. But at some point you could still click the button to activate the pillars, and that would be a problem if your teammates weren't expecting you to do that. So I'm thinking that's what that is.
You were saying you wished you trolled your teammates with this?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no.
when you are 150 kills in, looking for one drop, and you're doing it with a duo, you just need something to switch it up. Yeah. Because we both died plenty of times. We did not want to be there, but so it could have been fun.
Okay. Let's do the Eclipsed discussion now, actually, in this patch note.
Let's do this. Let's do that now.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time talking about this week. We spent a good couple of hours theory-crafting back and forth.
So the Eclipsed Soul Prayer will now refresh the active heal duration if the player critically strikes. So the way this prayer works is that when you crit with it, you heal for 10% of your max life points over 6 seconds. So with that, you end up in a situation where if you crit multiple times in that window, previously it didn't refresh the duration, so now the duration just starts again. Is it 10 seconds or 6? I forget. Is it 10 seconds?
So every tick you get healed for 1% of your life points.
Okay, so it's 10 ticks. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And also,
or it might be every 2 ticks you get healed, but like, yeah, it's effectively that.
Yeah. So also, the Eclipsed Soul prayer will no longer have its heal turned off if the player turns off their prayer with the prayer preset. And I bought both this prayer and Divine Rage. I had high hopes for it going in this week to test this, and I went to Raziel because I feel like Raziel is, a boss that I have come to, be mechanically sound at, and, just something I can mess around with, and I have the log for, so it's something that I know how it should feel. And when I combined my standard necromancy setup with Eclipsed Soul and Divine Rage and the piety level necromancy boosting prayer, I got relatively the same kill times as my standard necromancy setup with curses. And on the surface, you would think that this is good, right? But the healing that you give up with Soul Split should not be underestimated. And I sent a video example of my kills to both you, Bears, and Maxi, and I can send it to you right now, Pernas, if you'd like, and I can post it later in the show notes. But the video basically shows what happens here, in that if you're not careful, you can wind up dead. And I reached out to you, Bears, and I'm like, hey, do you want to give this a try with, magic or ranged? And I think you came up with the same idea as me, is that it's really hard to give up Soul Split, especially if you're using Necromancy or ranged with Split Soul.
Yep. Because you reached out originally, said range, and I mean, right away I was like, no, losing ECB is not going to be worth it. And then I was like, but I'll try magic. Like, magic benefits the most from the crit boost, like, with all
it's
the
a 4% crit boost, which is very nice.
Yeah. Reaver's running, like, you get a decent crit boost there, and then you heal based off your crits. Like, okay, I can see some synergy there. And then I went to Raksha and didn't even come close to a pool skip, and got 100% in rage and just died because I was eating all my food and ran out of food. I'm like, okay, maybe that's not the best boss to try it at. I went to Archglade Core, 500%. And there, I never eat food, I never use food, and I, again, died because I was just going through food too quickly and, like, was not paying attention to actually doing damage because I was trying to stay alive and not healing off of Soul Split. And it just did not feel like enough healing, and it did not feel like I was getting any crit buff from it.
So this is what I like about this, like, prayer and update and setup in general, what they've been doing with the normal prayer book, is there's about 3 or 4 angles to look at this from. One is the healing side, and it's very clearly not up to snuff with the healing, right?
No.
Like,
places we needed healing, it did not come through. And Raziel is a food-intensive boss.
Yeah, so let me go through some of the idea with this, right? So the almost everywhere splits, like, you're going to heal roughly 80% of your max health per minute, like, given average crit chance and how often we hit the target. Like, you'll heal 60 to 80% of your max health every minute with the Eclipsed Soul on, right? Like, you're getting 6,000 to 8,000 healing, which on a single target with something like Necromancy, where you're only able to crit or only able to hit the target and, like, proc something like Soul Split X number of times, is like, it's not the greatest choice for Eclipsed Soul, because you're just not going to be critting that much. It's going to heal even less. And then it's something else is, like, Soul Split heals off of every target you hit. So Soul Split will heal, like, it used to be capped, and my brain had to, like, redo the math on this week, because Soul Split works very differently with large hit splats now, where you get diminishing returns, but you still get healing from them. Soul Split, like, in an average minute, will heal close to double what this will. And that's on a single target. with multiple targets, Soul Split will heal off of every target you hit every time. And also synergizes with things like the Blood Reaver and all that. You don't have to crit to do it, so it works also with stuff like the Equilibrium Aura, those kind of things, right? And the idea with like Soul Split is you're going to get significantly more healing, and in multi-target scenarios especially, like things like Raziel, anything that summons minions of any kind, like you're going to get destroyed on Eclipsed Soul. So like that's like one aspect of what the prayer combination does, and that is probably one of the biggest things in terms of like places where you're going to sacrifice your overhead prayer for like a healing prayer. You generally want to actually have the healing. The next thing is the damage side of things, right? And that's like this is a lot of what our conversation was back and forth about, was the idea of like how much damage do you get out of this prayer versus how much damage you get out of something like, or this combination of prayers versus something like, you know, the tier 95s and 99s. And just simple, like the mathematics on that is like the tier 95 and 99 prayers are like 10 and 12% damage boost, flat, straight up, and 10 or 12 level accuracy boost. And they drain your opponent's damage, which we'll decide if that matters, but also their defense level. So the accuracy impact of that 10 to 12 levels plus the defense drain on your opponent for everything except for a lot of the high-level bosses that are immune to that stat drain. The comparison is Eclipsed Soul plus, like that whole setup gets you a 13% damage boost. If you're using the Zealot's Amulet, that actually bumps up to a 13% damage boost, but sacrifices your amulet slot. So you end up with the equivalency, like counting the amulet bonus, of like 17% damage boost, 17-18%, give or take.
Yeah, it can produce the largest raw damage boost in game if that is what you are going for. And I think Mod Sponge even said that was, you know, a consideration he took in when designing it.
But the thing that you're sacrificing is the accuracy bonus, because the accuracy bonus caps out at 8 levels instead of 10 or 12 plus a defense
So that
at the end of the day, the idea is that if you're facing something where you have perfect accuracy and you don't need a ton of healing, in theory it's better. It's just a question of like the places where that matters are going to be.
So I wanted to ask Bears
bossing
on that.
And maybe like Slayer, right?
Yeah. Like, where would that be, Bears, that accuracy doesn't matter, you don't need much food, and you're just going for raw damage?
Getting, I don't know, doing fast kills like God Wars Dungeon 2 where you're teleporting out, fast kills God Wars Dungeon 1 where you're teleporting out. I mean, high-end wise, I don't really think there is a place.
No, it's not on the high end. This does not have a use in the hand. I agree with that.
Yeah, so I think it's like, I imagine the people who are going for one-tick kills at God Wars Dungeon 1, like, they might use it. But, or just in general, God Wars Dungeon 1 and God Wars Dungeon 2, I think.
Right. The lower tier stuff that you'll get enough healing without having to worry about it. Potentially, I do worry about all the minions that God Wars 1 actually kind of worrying about. Yeah. So there's that. The last thing to consider with this is actually, to me, is the cost side of it. In total, having all 3 prayers on for the damage boost on normal prayers, you have a prayer drain rate at base before reductions of 500 prayer points a minute. A tier 95 plus Soul Split is 600. A tier 99 plus Soul Split is 700. So you have less prayer drain. So again, if you're doing something like Slayer, this is potentially more damage and less prayer drain than something like Curses. And then the cost side of things, again, it comes down to like unlocking a tier 99 prayer for each style is 3.2 bill right now. Unlocking all of these prayers to be able to use this on normal is about 45 mil at time of recording. They're under GE value, selling pretty consistently. So I think it becomes a matter of like, if you are a person who is getting into PVM, I think if you're like, it doesn't have a place in endgame. And I think that shows pretty clearly in terms of the amount of healing it gives. Yeah. And the fact that you do have to be on, like you have to, like you say, you give up Split Soul for it. But it is something that to me is like it's valuable, and you can use it to practice. I think a lot of the things, like you could practice the prayer flicking, because the heal from this, the next patch note, is that this Eclipsed Soul prayer no longer has healing turned off if the prayer turns their prayer off. That also means that you could switch to like a melee prayer, so you could actually flick this for healing and like kind of get used to it. Again, it's not as much healing.
And when you think about it, 10% of your max life points, that's pretty big for Slayer in terms of the amount of damage most Slayer creatures do.
It's, well, I don't know. Some of them really do chunk, but it strikes me as, I don't want to say gateway prayer, if that's not the best term, but like it's more accessible for folks that are doing content in a more relaxed way, and more relaxed content. This is cheaper to use, cheaper to buy than a lot of the higher end prayers. It is a damage upgrade. And it gives another alternative that I think might have uses some places. It's just not going to be optimal for endgame.
Yeah, I feel confident with that. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Bears.
What do you got?
Comparing it to tier 99 damage boosting prayers, sure, like that's completely way more expensive. But to get just 95 prayer nowadays, which unlocks the T95 curses, like, I mean, it really only costs about the same amount as it is to just buy this prayer. So,
but
like,
this is going to be more damage and less. Like, if you don't need the healing, it's more damage and less upkeep cost.
Correct, but I mean,
it is an upgrade.
Yes, I feel like the healing from Soul Split is just always going to be
good.
Better. Like,
especially with the AOE stuff our necromancy does.
Yeah, I mean, even range and magic with Corruption Blast and Corruption Shot. I mean, I couldn't imagine. Like, do you know how much you heal? Like, if you go into ED1, you surge in, and like there's a huge group, and they all attacking you, and you just put a Corruption Blast on you.
AOE's Soul Split will always be the king for multi-target. It's literally, this is like single target Slayer and low tier bossing. Like, again, the use case is more niche. But I like that there is a case where I could see it being used, especially like it seems more of an accessible upgrade, and I like that.
And I mean, it also just is a pain to get too. I mean, if you need 75 in combats and prayers, like that's not that big of a deal. But like if you're an Ironman, to get it, you need 86 archaeology, 75 necro to even start the boss, and then you still need to do all the fort quests and all the necromancy quests to get there.
That's a wall.
Counterpoint. Think about what you have to do to unlock curses.
Oh, I know. It's also
how many sheer amount of quest points it's like 180 quest point minimum. Like it is, there's.
But if you're going to go through those quests, you might as well do the one to get you the better ones. Yeah.
I mean, again, damage-wise, it is theoretically better damage.
I'm just glad, that we got to the bottom of this, because it's not a runic attuner, at least. So.
We're not sure where it lands.
Yeah.
No,
but we did figure out the
alternative.
We did figure out the runic attuner last week on that, but. Yeah. Bears, any last thoughts on it? Because I know this was mainly a brainchild of myself and Thaxi Theory Crafting this week and me testing it. Anything else from your testing or your experiences before we move on?
Oh, Shane, I used it for all my Reapers this week.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah, I took it to Rax, I took it to Osseous, I took it to a few places. I noticed that I was eating a little more food and my kill times were similar. I mean, it's the things you've already mentioned, Dave.
Yeah, okay.
Nah. It worked.
I think I also had a very when they released this prayer, like the stats with it before the boss came out, I was like, this could be really good with Magic. Like, and Magic just wants as many crit buffs as possible. So it's like, this looks like it could be fun, could be interesting. And I was like almost hoping like, oh yeah, when you switch to Magic, you need to switch your prayer book and go back to normals. And like that would have been kind of cool. And I was kind of hoping like that might be the case, and like kind of changed the meta on that, and it just fell flat on its face when it comes to that.
I think
I just had a
hunting low tier bosses. I think there's a world where you still do it.
I think so too. I just think I had too high expectations, and that's probably part of the problem.
No, that's fair. That's totally fair.
All right.
But I also want to
go
point
ahead.
out we spent about the same amount of time talking about how bad Lord of Bones was on that.
I remember.
And now it's actually useful. So like they do a good job of planning for the future. So maybe
a good long history in the game.
I mean, at least I bought this prayer. Unlike I didn't buy Lord of Bones when that happened, and look how much that is now.
Remember when Dracolich first released, or I mean, Range is going to be a lot of these examples, or by Criminal Bolts, but Criminal Bolts existed for 2 years, like Enchanted Bolt, before people really started, before the Range meta like edged out Magic back in like 2017 to 2019. Yeah. Like the Dracolich was around for a few months before it got expensive.
I called the Hydrix Bolts when they came out the red-headed stepchild.
And I looked at you and I told you, I think I told you on the show that you were crazy.
No, this was before you were here.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I know we had a number of conversations bolt-wise over the years, but yeah, I mean, some things that I thought were going to be better than they were, like, God, arrows. Oh, arrows. So, I mean, they're all right. Bolg saved Range more than the arrows ever could have, but yeah. I don't know. This strikes me as one of those things that there's a world where specific places this could be really good. Maybe those places just don't need the power creep, though, right? Like, that's the problem, is that those low-tier bosses, you're not going to notice doing 10% extra damage because it's dying 1, 2, or 3 ticks earlier. Like, yeah, maybe that's just it doesn't matter.
I think that's where we land on this, and it's a good investment to have, and just like everything else, good to have in your tool belt. But also this week, readjusted the skybox filter changes based on recent feedback, which is again another obtuse patch note. And from the sounds of it in the Mod Lee patch notes video, this was just some changes around the edges in terms of switching skyboxes, I think, if I remember reading it correctly.
It sounds like when they were changing and setting up some of the engine stuff for the new areas, they edited how the engine interacted with skyboxes in terms of fog, depth, warmth, and distance. And that had an impact on the pre-existing filters and skyboxes. In that it changed some of the values that they had previously had to make them different.
Right.
Where people had been using them as like markers for gameplay, those markers were no longer accurate. And so they reverted how it impacted them so that those now were the way that they have been for a while. That's my understanding, is that they messed something up unintentionally and have unmessed it.
Okay. The player's walking animation should be correctly reset when using dive or bladed dive while mounted on the manual auto cycle.
Someone found this and had a lot of fun.
Yep. And finally, large and huge meteorites can now be used on free-to-play worlds.
Some niche case, somebody had some from leftover when they were a member and they were clogging an inventory that they couldn't delete them.
Yeah. All right. We also have the group Ironman FAQ this week. Right-click re-examine, as they call it. We mentioned that coming on the 28th. We now have a list of all the items that are going to be tradable within your group. This includes things that are already tradable. Those will be tradable without question. And when it comes to group storage, things that may be stored include archaeology materials, bird's nest and geos, dungeoneering rewards, augmented and degrading items, masterwork armor, slayer helmets, farming seeds and saplings, necromancy materials, potions, summoning charms and materials, teleportation jewelry, treasure trails, sealed, urns, weapon and equipment fragments, so like Imcondo and spider leg pieces. That's neat. That's good.
Awesome. So awesome.
Yeah.
I might mess with how the drop tables work in terms of giving you leg pieces in order and those kind of things, but I think it just checks your bank every time it rolls. So that, like, if you're going direct, you just pull the group's leg pieces out and you're guaranteed to get them. That's super potentially cool.
Yeah. And anything marked as tradable by the game, you can trade to other group members. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Items that progress quests will not be storable even if they fit in the above categories, and storable items may not be player-to-player traded by group members even though they are storable.
Untradeable is untradeable. You have to go through storage to get it.
Which makes sense, I think.
Really wonder how they're doing augmentable items. Some
I think they
spoilers.
said in the first one that they would just be able to be stored.
No, yeah, but here's the deal. You can't, like, I'll give you a little bit of behind-the-scenes spoiler for our theory crafting week for our group Ironman. I plan to rush Invention through a couple of ways, but I plan to get Invention relatively early if I can, before other group mates may have wanted to get 80 divination.
No, Invention needs to happen ASAP, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
So, but here's the thing. Can I augment and perk an item and give it to somebody who doesn't have Invention unlocked? Will they be able to earn XP or use those perks? Because they don't have a charge pack. So that's my question is, like, if you can put augmented items in there, how does that work? If I guess it just doesn't do anything. It's just a normal pickaxe or it's just a rock in somebody's inventory. Like, I do wonder about how that's going to work with augmented items. Because there's some stuff that I could see them being tradable, but like,
that's a very good question.
Invention's a big ask, like, for a new account. Like, yes, within a couple of months, everyone should have it, theoretically, but potentially it is months to unlock for normal account progression. And, like, if I get Invention unlocked in the first week and I make a pickaxe for Tannis, can Tannis use it? Does Tannis get a honed perk? Like, even if he can't earn XP on it? I wonder.
We're going to have all the auras.
Thank God.
That's really
That's
nice.
so cool. That's such a great... And, like...
So this is for both
They didn't have a
people
fresh
who
start,
are doing competitive and non-competitive, right?
Yes.
all group Ironman accounts.
Perfect. That's what I thought.
Yeah, which is so good because, like, the amount of time it takes in years to unlock the multi-loyalty points. Yeah, I mean, it's just good.
There's going to be no exemptions for group content sizes. They may look into specific things like the Akamaru puzzle, as well as entry requirements for Barbarian Assault post-launch.
I do think that's interesting because that is something with competitive that, like, congratulations, your AOD team size is capped at 5. If you want those Praisal traps, you are doing 5-man or fewer AOD.
I was hoping Barbarian Assault would need more people and that we wouldn't have to do that because that's another one of my hated mini games, but I guess maybe we'll have to go there.
What
Is that required for at this point?
I don't know. I hope it's not required for anything.
Because imagine if you had 4 people in your GIM. You know what? I'm willing to bet that they just have the normal Ironman restrictions on that. I think because you can do that because it is solo rewards and a solo. Like, I think Ironman can just do Barbarian Assault. I think just like normal.
Yeah.
You don't need XP inside.
Here's one for Pernasius. Group Ironman players will not be able to obtain a Dark Onyx core.
That's okay. Regular players can't obtain it either.
True.
Yo, don't. It's too real.
1600 hard mode ones, only doing the others and still no dark core.
Jeez.
I have one in like 1700 between my 2 accounts. So
Someone quick chatted the other day, 460, and they've got 3 of them.
Unreal.
The
I
world
want
is
to hunt them
unfair.
down and kill them, but anyway.
I maintain my opinion that those upgrades are too impactful to be hidden as they are. They are too expensive. Like they should be at least twice as common. There should be more.
Isn't it only one per world that drops each thing?
I don't think it's guaranteed on each world. I think it is a random roll. It's just like a 1 in 1,000, 1 in 500. Like I think it's just on the drop table. It's just hecka rare. Because there's no way you get 1 per world.
How do you guys feel about this? Is that the group broadcasts that have been added? There will be world first broadcasts for all members having all 99, all 120, all 200, all max level, all quest cape, all master quest cape, all comp, all trim, all final boss, all IFB, all daredevil.
All IFB is mad. All daredevil is funny because how the fuck are you doing all of the Akamaru things with like you can't do that. That has to be a non-competitive group. They have to have these broadcast, the first competitive group that gets Daredevil, or the first competitive group that all gets IFB, that's got to be a 2-man group. There's world. Are you kidding me?
Then even if you have a 2-man group, how are you doing AOD? And Rago.
Smile?
Rago's doable. Duos easily, I guess, but AOD.
You can do AOD. Isn't that a thing people actually do? I mean,
It
you have to have
is,
a lot
but,
of gear for it. It sucks.
It's not easy. It's long kills, and
Yeah.
one person that dies, like, you start over. Like,
for only competitive groups are limited to their group members. So, is my understanding. I think non-competitive group Ironman groups can just do PVM like other regular Ironman. So the way you do that is like I don't know. I guess this has to be all competitive. I don't know, because like you could just start a group Ironman group with 2 Ironmen that already have IFB, and congratulations, 2 seconds into the
I think
release.
they mentioned something about that later on in the news post, in a particular about high scores. But there's also one actually for the group completing Yakamaru together.
The group has completed.
You think we can get? You think we could do that with ours?
No.
No. Not with me. You have me there. No way you're doing that.
With Ironman gear. And, no, even
I just imagine learners.
Yeah, learners. Yeah, exactly. No, even with an experienced group, 5-man Yaka kind of still sucks a little bit.
Even with necromancy?
It's fine.
Have you gone back?
It's fine. I've done no, not recently. I did go back early, like during the necromancy release. I was back with just Necro. There was an issue with Deathmark initially.
Oh,
I don't know if they ever actually.
I think they
where you
did.
could Deathmark and reflect on your teammates. There was a big issue with people doing Soul Strike on the stun pool unintentionally, just because it was in the river rotations, or the special attack, the Death Guard special attack stunned. So there was a while where we sort of banned necromancy, just a few weeks until they fixed part of it. But if you get an insta kill on a jelly attached to a reflecting jelly, it will still hit a random one of your friends for 6,000 damage. That's really fun. As far as I'm aware, that's not been fixed. But like aside from that, just don't try to avoid death marking. Things with the reflecting up. That's all.
Yeah. Anyways, there will also be individual broadcasts for each group size, both in competitive and non-competitive modes, and that's what I was getting to with this. There will be New World First broadcast, as well as general achievement broadcast, like the 99s and the Quest Capes and everything that we
so you've done it in a 2-man group, you've done it in a 4-man group. The group that gets Daredevil in a 2-man group first, that's gonna sit there for a while, and I'm gonna smile when it's done, because I have no you can't. Wait a second, wait a second,
hang on, what is Daredevil for the people who are unaware?
Oh, sorry. Daredevil is completing all feats at raids. There are 10 of them. It's 5 for Beastmaster Drazeg and 5 for Yakamaru, and they are just like... They are technically intended mechanics, but you're doing the boss wrong if you're doing a feat most of the time. With like 2 exceptions. There's the one where you have to keep all the Gobias alive, which is just do bunches of damage, which is fine. Or at least one Gobi alive. I like the ones that are going to. So my biggest concern. These all look fine. I'm interested to see the lush of World First broadcasts that are all coming out of all the different group sizes and modes, and I think that's going to be fun. I like the World First broadcast system, as long as I don't feel pressure to go for one of them, because that sounds awful. With that said, there will be non-World First broadcasts that will appear in group Ironman chat for individual level ups, quest completions, and boss PBs, which is fine. But if we get a level up notification whenever any one of the 5 of us gains a level below level 30, I will scream. Those are getting turned off immediately, and they'll get turned back on afterwards. It's like you don't get a pop-up notification saying congratulations on receiving your level that interrupts your skilling when you're below level 30 on like the old school modes, because you just get levels too fast. Like, man, that's going to be spammy, and I want to leave this on because I want to see broadcasts. I don't want to see 3,000 total level worth of broadcast, or all of us getting to 1,000 total level would be like a week and a half worth of work, maybe. Like, seeing 7,500 broadcasts in like a week and a half.
And see, that's like another point of contention here. You know, should there be broadcasts like for the first individual in a group worldwide to get, you know, like a 99 as an example, or a 120 or a 200? Like should all that be happening again?
Yeah. I mean, the same way that you get a 99 now and it broadcasts to your world. Like, I think you should just do that. And congratulations, you have a Group Ironman logo next to your name. Like, that's fine.
Okay.
There's gonna be a lot of those. I'm excited to see all the broadcasts because we don't see a lot of the 99 broadcasts these days. You know,
No.
People are either hiding or they're all next level.
And that leads into high scores. Will standard Ironman characters who convert to Group Ironman be able to take all the top spots? Initially, this was going to be the case, viewing competitive mode as the choice for high scores, but following community feedback, they have added an unranked status. If your Ironman groups invites a player who was playing in Ironman mode before the Group Ironman release, you'll be warned that your group will be removed from the high scores before choosing to invite them to your group.
Good.
Yeah. And they're adding a flag to all newly created accounts that will mark them as created after the GIM release. So even if you start a regular Ironman and then 3 months down the line you join a group, as long as you started on or after the Group Ironman release day, you count for the high scores. And good.
Yeah. Has there been any considerations for non-competitive Ironman accounts using the group storage to trade items with other groups? When trading or when joining a new group, there's a 14-day cooldown period before you'll be able to use the group storage. So to leave and rejoin the same group would require a minimum of 28 days. In addition, founder status will be shown on the high scores to identify groups who have never had a player leave or join. And it's also worth noting that it's not possible to rejoin a competitive Ironman group. So it's not really going to be a problem like people were
if you're all
wondering.
finagling about all this stuff and you're that worried about it, like you get 28 additional items or whatever. Yeah.
And we did also get some clarity. If you leave a competitive group Ironman, you will have the option of creating a new competitive group with brand new accounts, downgrading to a standard group Ironman, or downgrading to a main. And if you leave a regular group Ironman, you can either create a new group, join another group, or downgrade to a main. So there was some question about the downgrade path for if you could become standard when it first came out. So that's been rectified.
Good.
You can make an account before launch. Just don't, choose the mode yet, because you won't be able to select Group Ironman if you wanted to do that. The rule set will be able to be seen in games, and there's also a 7-day grace period upon group creation where new members may be invited without losing founder status. So if you're going to make a group, make sure everybody's able to log in and get added within the 7 days.
I was so worried that we were going to have to coordinate getting 5 people on from all different time zones at the exact same time on release day. I was like, I don't know that normally it's like it wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah,
like on release
because we have in our group, we have Eastern, Mountain, Pacific, New Zealand, and Australian time zones.
Yeah. Yes. So it would have to have been some weird time in the morning, probably, like before Tana started to work, and after So I'm glad that we've that this is like some. So it sounds like you just need to maybe have 2 people on, maybe just 1, but maybe 2 people on at the same time to start your group, which ideal, perfect. Also, the creating an account in advance thing. We did that with Fresh Start too, right? Where they like you could make an account. And how does this? Because I think when I did my Fresh Start, I used an account that I'd been playing old school on. How does this one work? Is my question. Like when you leave it at character creation, you just like if you log in and you make your character, you just don't select a.
You just don't select a game mode.
So you can't log into even like not tutorial and whatever the tutorial island currently is. You just don't. It'll save your appearance changes, I guess. So you could make your appearance.
I don't even know if it saves that,
first.
because it looks like based on the modal window here that, you're going to have to choose between standard iron or group iron. So
I guess it just means that you can create the character, add it to your account, and then you just create a username and never log in.
I guess. I'm not going to do it until day of.
See, I'm really worried that it's going to be that they're going to overload their account creation servers. And maybe there's just not enough people that play RS3 to actually stress them because they've got the infrastructure in for old school. But I'm worried about it.
What was that,
It
Bears?
might be the first hour, I imagine. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever tried to log in right when a boss gets released. That first 20 minutes, it might be a little slow or it might not let you log in, but after 20 minutes, it's fine.
I don't think I'm going to pay membership on it before I'm in the account in the group. I think we should maybe set our GIM up on unless you have to be a member for it. I mean, that was the deal with First Start, wasn't it? You had to pay it in advance.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I'll pay membership before day of, but I do. I want to have the account in the system with a password, on the Jagex account beforehand, because I'm worried that there's going to be technical hiccups. I'm very optimistic that they're going to have a lot of people who want to do this, and it's going to be a big flood of stuff. I don't know how true that is, but I want to think that there's going to be old school, some people, friends from old school, or people from RS3 that have lapsed that are coming back, and that we're going to get a bigger, that is the idea with this content, right? Is that it's going to pull people back in. It's going to give them a reason to play and have friends and be start an account again and keep the game, keep players in.
I hope so, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And I feel like that could be a discussion for another day, honestly, about this.
I'm optimistic. That's all. I want to be optimistic.
Mod Huey and Mod Breezy also gathered this week and discussed a few things. I'll let you guys watch the bulk of that stream if you want, but one of the things that they did mention in relation to the 110 fletching and woodcutting update is that the new tree is going to be an eternal magic tree, which is a crossbreed of Iron trees from the world of Aya that was destroyed at the end of Extinction and magic trees that have been bred together, and they'll sit around Eagle's Peak.
I hope they're gigantic. I hope that they are bigger than the crystal tree. Because the art looks cool, and the Aya trees that are big redwood forest trees are so cool, and I want this to be a huge magic tree. Oh, or multiple of them. Like 2 or 3 or 4 of them that are just big and just sitting there.
Yeah. Also, and please do interrupt me if there's anything else in relation to discussion around this that any of you want to mention. There will be a Hatchet of Earth and Song added, and a Hatchet of Life and Death that works similarly to everything that we've come to expect. So, that discussion we had about adding the extra tiers of Hatchet, that does indeed look like that's going to be happening. So, that's good. I'm happy about that.
Is not the correct name here. Branch and, they have Earth and Song that finds something new. You've got a Matic of Time and Space. You've got a pickaxe of Earth and Song. You need to comp with something. No.
I don't know. I think it makes sense.
It does, but I don't like that it's the same. I want it to be different. Same with the Life and Death. Want it to be different.
It should have been Ice and Fire.
Yo, wait. Hatchet of Ice and Fire kind of goes hard. I mean, I get the George R. R. Martin reference, but also, yeah, no, real funny. They went 16 years without releasing a new Hatchet. They released one new Hatchet, and now they're like, oh, here, all of a sudden, we're going to add 10 levels and add 7 Hatchets.
Well, they have to change the systems.
They should have done this forever ago.
Well, they had to change something within the core way woodcutting is implemented in the game to add the last Hatchet that they added. So that's why...
There's a reason it was broken. I'm just saying,
right.
7 Hatchets, 7 new Hatchets. Really? You couldn't have done this earlier.
Give us the bad news.
The bad news? The bad news is that logs are not being removed from drop tables with this update.
You will have too many magic logs forever, and you will like it. Honestly, I think that's fine because fire-making balance the way it currently is still an acceptable price.
And for what it's worth, Breezy said he'd like to look into this at some point, so it's not off the table.
Yeah.
No.
And they did say logs and give them wood spirits.
they said they're adding in Eternal Magic bows, so there will be, like, in addition to the Masterwork bow that will be coming with this, there will be an additional tier of, like, the Primal Greatsword. There will be an Eternal Magic bow that will come along as well, and so there will be more, like, they're adding in fletching stuff with this as well. We have a lot of the woodcutting.
Yeah, that's
stuff.
good.
There's also, like,
I'm honestly looking forward to this update when it arrives. So that's good.
Me too.
And
Most
finally, they will
get
be
a little
adding in the missing orichalcum through primal hatchets as well.
5 hatchets. 5
So.
or 7. 7 hatchets.
Everybody gets a hatchet. You just have to summon up Oprah Winfrey to do the thing.
Look under your chair. There's a hatchet. Lovely.
Just throw it at each other.
Oh God, that's a Halloween story if I've ever seen one.
Hey, guys, you see Oprah up there. You get a hatchet. You get a hatchet. Just throwing them out at the crowd.
I like it. Implemented immediately. New range training method.
Oh, what have we been doing, Bears? Let's start with you.
Yeah, so besides kind of working and testing the new prayers, I just got finished doing a PVM event. It was kind of a mix between a bingo and battleship, so it was kind of cool. I enjoyed it a lot. So basically, we were given a ton of drops, and we had to put them on a board, and then they put ships on that board, and we had to find them when we got the drop. Part of the reason I liked it so much was my team won, even though I did absolutely nothing. And not for lack of trying. I only got 3 drops, but the last 2 days of the event, we were bow of the last guardian piece off from winning. And I spent, in 2 days, probably spent over 10 hours at Zammy 500s and just didn't get anything. So after that, I took a small break of a couple days just to...
I think that's warranted, especially with what you were doing for this in terms of looking for the Runic Tuner at the gate.
Yep. So between those two, I was kind of burnt out. But yeah, I mean, I sat here all day Saturday and Sunday last week with football on one monitor and Zammy or the gate on the other. So it wasn't the worst weekend, but yeah, it was a little exhausting. But I had a good time.
Was it fun?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I was with a buddy the whole time. We were in voice chat the whole time, and we'd make mistakes and make fun of each other and start just talking about life while we were in the background doing Zammy. It got to that point where we could have closed our eyes. It felt like.
Hoping that's what our group Ironman is doing, is that we just get to hang out in the RSBANDB Discord with anybody else who wants to hang out. We actually make RS into more of a voice chat social kind of a game. I've grown to love that in other MMOs, and I want that here. I mean, that's what I do with some of my buddies. I mean, there's a group of 4 that, at least 2 or 3 of us are on every single night just chatting, and it's like, it's not most of the time it's not even RuneScape related. Like we've talked to each other's significant others. We've I've met a couple of them in real life. So it's like life taxes and everything in the universe.
Yeah. So I like the way that is, and it kind of keeps me playing the game because I want to keep hanging out with them. So yeah.
Nice. Pernasius.
Not a lot. I got all my shard pieces together, so put those together and decided I'll just AFK because I had a lot of other stuff going on at back down at Demonheim Archaeology. I am now at 756 pieces. I've just banked to check the amount of relics I've had without a brush piece.
And you have got no brush pieces since the site came out, right?
Nope, not a piece since the brush come out. So I really think 200 mil accounts must have some sort of block on them, or maybe they just hate me in general, because between that and the Dark Core, where I'm over 1,600 special events without one, Jagex just hates me, I think.
Shane has stolen your RNG. We know it.
Bloody poms.
I haven't got anything good in a long time.
You know what? I may have stolen your RNG this week. I'm sorry.
Well, what have you been up to?
I'm finished my catch-up. I think the stuff that has happened. So I played during the Necromancy release, and then I've been off other than like the occasional holiday event, pretty much since like most of this year. I feel like I've caught up on everything. I have all of the comp and trim wrecks that have been released this year done, except for the 3 Osseous pet drops. I have found a lovely AFK Osseous guide and started doing that. So I did about 100 kills of that this week. I did the entire Demonheim dig site this week, which was lovely. I kind of miss archaeology, to be honest. And that was a great, just kind of a pause and a break and going through the things and like the lore around it made me very happy. So that was a ton of fun. I've got the lore books and finished out, doing a couple dozen kills each at the 2 latest of the bosses, the Sanctum and the Gate. I stole your RNG, I apologize. I got the Sanctum pet at 8 kill count in normal mode before I got the Nakatra book, which I got at 10 kill count. I can't complain. So, second boss pet under 10 KC. Feeling good about that one. Never going to use
pretty
that.
Awesome.
I think it's kind of ugly. But, yeah, that's, my week has been a lot of that. And I have 5 goals kind of left. I'll do some kill count stuff and I'll do some random achievement hunting otherwise. But the 5 big goals, I have 3 things left to retrim. That's the necromancy levels, the killing Osseous a bunch for those keys, and doing a lot of clues. Clues are the one part of the game that I don't deserve to be comped or trimmed yet because I've not done enough clues to earn it.
Well,
frankly.
Alt 1 is legal and sanctioned now,
content.
so have at it.
Yeah, so...
No cheating.
Yeah, and then... and then the fire making and rune crafting pets are my last... I think it's strength. We don't count strength. Strength will be fast. Last one's for Master of All. So I've been, just burning a lot of sharp shell shards and spending some lovely time rune crafting. I'm doing a lot of rune crafting necrotic runes if I want to make money, and I'm doing rune span if I want to chill. And that's been lovely. So
Nice.
That's it. That's the goals. That's where we're at.
Sounds good.
How about you?
As for me this week, I did a bunch of testing, as I mentioned previously, on the Eclipsed Soul Prayer. And I spent probably about 6 hours at the gate in the dying days of the bonus, and no real interesting key drops there on that. So we'll just put that off to the side for a bit. I got the consolation prize of the skyboxes, of course, with that. But I guess part of the reason I haven't been focusing on gathering. With my gathering buff is that I've been just doing Slayer as well on old school. I got level 69 Slayer because that's a quest requirement for Monkey Madness 2. And I'm not going to touch the skill again for a long time.
Yeah, I want you to make it your
Slayer?
next 99.
No.
I mean, Group Ironman is coming, Shane.
I mean, at least with RS3 Slayer, there's necromancy, and I know how to just make things die instantly with that.
Or genuinely Soul Reaper, right? Like Soul Reaper.
Yeah.
Can you access what Slayer level need you access? If you don't need anything, you just do boss tasks. And
That's
3
a good
boss
point.
tasks and you're level 50. Like, I don't know what requirement you need for the quest cape, but you probably could just do Reaper tasks for it. Which is crazy to say, but totally an option.
Yeah, I don't know what you need to get the Grim Gem and the first task.
That's an issue for Theory Crafting Week. I'm adding it to the list.
Right on. We do have some achievements as well. This week, starting off on the 9th, we have Dat Engineer with 120 Magic as well as 120 Divination.
Also on October 9, Totley hit 120 Slayer. And October 8th, we saw Auric G with 99 Smithing.
Continuing on the 8th, we had Highcliff with 200 mil Magic and Raven Rain with 99 Necromancy on the 7th.
We had Tim 2 with 120 Fishing on the October 5th, and Orman with 99 Archaeology on October 4th. Good job, everybody.
Well done.
Congratulations.
Good job. What do you got for pick of the week, Thanksy? It's that time of year.
It is. It's cozy game time. My stock of them has not shrunk. This week's cozy game of the week would be Sunhaven. It came out a few years ago. It's had fairly regular updates, including a few expansions. It is, I think, fairly community-driven. It's another one of the pixel art kind of farming sims. The balance on it is pretty good. It is, I would say, more Stardew Valley. I mean, if you're a person who likes Stardew Valley, it's another game for you. It's relatively story-driven, actually. You get daily quests from a notice board that is a little bit more... It's not like to the level of like the My Time at Porsche, My Time at Sandrock level of your daily tasks are what you do, but it's also not quite Stardew where fishing or farming are the only way to like progress things. The characters are well-written, and each have their own story as well, and it's just... Clearly had a lot of time and dev work put into it by a small dev team that just continues like, this is our passion project. We love work on it. And they just regular updates of just more stuff to do. They just keep adding on to it. And it's just good. It's been a good time so far. Feels good. So that's it.
Sounds good. Primary screen game, second screen game.
Primary. It is an active play, like Stardew, one of those. It plays very similar in that kind of way where there is no click and look away. It's decide what you want to do next and then go do the thing and manage your time. And yep.
All right, sounds good. We'll have a link to that in the show notes over at update.show. Does anybody have anything else before we say goodbye for this week and get ready for Halloween next week?
Spooky.
Nope.
No? Pernasius, you good?
All good over this side.
Sounds good then. Well, in the meantime, folks, thank you for joining us for this episode. If you want all of them delivered, especially as we start the group Ironman project, do subscribe to the show, update.show/subscribe. We plan on talking about Group Ironman, I think, at least through Christmas, maybe beyond that, just weaving that into the discussions that we have. So do look out for that. We're on all the podcast listeners, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and more. And, of course, video as well at youtube.com/RSBANDB. But with that being said, thank you, everybody, for being here. And we'll see you guys next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
Happy escaping all.
Yeah.